do this. Hello everybody, Michael here, and today is January 1st, 2022. So we've made it, we survived another year. We are cruising into a fresh 365 days. And, in reality, I think we all know there is really nothing different, nothing special about January 1st. It's just another day. But you can't deny that the symbolism of being able to start fresh with a new calendar year definitely carries some weight. And it is kind of refreshing and a little cathartic to know that you can set out to achieve whatever it is that you want to achieve for this coming year. Now, I have traditionally never been somebody that has really set New Year's resolutions for myself. I have occasionally decided on some business goals for what at the time was my side business, my author career. But since 2022 is going to be the first full year that I'm going to be a full-time author/creator, I thought it would be a good exercise to sit down and really look at some personal goals and also some business goals that I wanted to set for myself. That way I had a roadmap of what I wanted to achieve for the coming year. And what I discovered when I was creating these goals is that a lot of them kind of overlap from the business and the personal side and meet in the middle in this kind of Venn diagram. But I think that they kind of work to support each other. I think a lot of my personal goals are going to help me be able to achieve the business side of things and vice versa. So I ended up with 4 personal goals or resolutions, I guess, and then I also had 4 business goals, and I'm going to go through them now and you can kind of see how they play into each other. So starting with the personal side of things, number 1 on the list, the top of the list, and honestly the thing that I want to try the hardest to do this year is to spend less time on social media. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not going down this path of saying that all social media is completely evil. I really do enjoy interacting with readers and friends and fans on Facebook. I get the majority of my news and keep up with current events on Twitter, but what I want to try to avoid is using social media to fill all of the downtime in my life. And what I mean by that is, you guys know how many times throughout the day, the moment your brain decides that it's not occupied or not consumed with something, you reach for your phone and you open up one of your social media apps, and before you know it, you have lost 30 minutes, 45 minutes, maybe even an hour scrolling through what is essentially nonsense, and you've done nothing productive and just wasted time. So that is what I'm trying to cut down on. And to be honest with you, in the days over the last week or so where I have really made a conscious effort to do this, to keep my phone away from me in different parts of the house while I'm working, or just make sure that I am being very consciously aware of not opening those apps on a regular basis, I genuinely have found that I have had less stress, less anxiety, and I just genuinely feel happier throughout the day. Number 2 on the personal list is I want to read more. And this is like the first example of one of these goals feeding into the next goal, because the less time that I spend with my phone in my hand looking at social media is time that can be replaced with a Kindle in my hand reading a book. Now, I know that I definitely read more books than probably your average person, but I do know that I can definitely read more if I start making time for it and filling some of the other less productive things that I do throughout the day with putting that Kindle in my hand. For example, when I eat lunch, a lot of times I'll put my phone in my hand and start scrolling through Twitter, and I really feel like this is time where I could be reading and enjoying a book instead of getting sucked down a social media rabbit hole. My love of writing and creating stories obviously stemmed from my love of reading that I developed from early on in childhood, and Stephen King has a really good piece of advice to writers that I've heard him say out loud in several interviews, and I've also seen him quoted several times, and that's basically, if you want to be a writer, there's 2 things you have to do. You have to read a lot and you have to write a lot. So reading, I guess, even though it's on my personal list, is definitely going to be one of those things that also helps me to achieve my goals as a writer, because it's going to help me develop my craft even further. So number 3 on my list of personal goals is, without a doubt, 100% the most common resolution that people set for themselves each and every year, and that is just to be healthier and get in better shape. See, I grew up as an athlete. I played basketball essentially from the time I could walk all the way up through high school, and then stayed pretty physically active through most of college. But of course, as you get older and you get into a day job and you get married, you have a family, you start losing some of that time that you used to be able to so easily commit to working out and exercising. And this is one of those things that I actually thought would improve very easily when I started working for myself and I walked away from my day job back in the end of March. I figured, okay, I'm working from home, I'm my own boss now, I will be able to more easily have a regimented workout routine. And somehow that turned out to be completely wrong. What I found was when I was sitting at my desk and working on various projects and trying to juggle several balls at the same time, and also eating lunch and just doing all sorts of things at once, I actually slipped out of a regimented schedule and found myself not making that time to exercise the way that I should be. So this is something that I definitely want to refocus on going into this new year, which is another really good segue into the fourth and final goal on my personal list, which honestly could have fallen into either camp, the business or the personal. This is one of those ones that definitely meets in the middle of that Venn diagram. So number 4 is to be more regimented with my schedule and to create more time for myself. See, going back to that work-life balance that I talked about in the beginning of this whole thing, I definitely like to be scheduled. I like to have tasks that I set out to complete each and every day. And when those tasks are completed, I like to then be able to turn off the work brain for a little while and then do things that I enjoy, like reading, like exercising, like playing a video game, like watching a movie or a TV show in the evening, something that I can just unwind and relax. But going back to, like I said, with getting, healthy and staying in shape, I definitely need to make sure that I have a clear goal and set out my tasks each day, each week, and know exactly when I'm going to be exercising, when I'm going to be writing. And I think if I can keep up a regimented schedule, I'm going to manage to be the most productive employee I can be for myself and also be the healthiest and happiest I can be personally. So again, that's it for the personal side of things. We're now going to cross over into the business goals that I'm setting for myself for 2022. So the number 1 goal for my business side of things actually has nothing to do with productivity, which is kind of odd, but is actually more of a financial goal. And that is, I want to be as precise and as smart with my advertising as I can possibly be. See, in the past, when I was working my full-time job and all of my side business income could just instantly be reinvested back into the business, used to experiment on different advertising campaigns to see what worked, what didn't, and there was no real, care if I had a win, had a loss. Now, the fact that this is my primary source of income, I need to be much smarter with my advertising dollars and make sure I am maximizing their efficiency. So while the goal has always been to maximize profit while spending the least amount of money on advertising, this is going to be the first year where I am really going to be taking my spreadsheets and just analyzing the metrics down a whole nother layer or two deeper than I usually do to make sure I am spending money the most efficient way I can and that I'm not leaving money on the table in different places and not wasting money on advertising that's not generating me any return at all. So here we go with another segue into the second goal for my business side of things, and that is I want to, and actually this is probably the number 1 most common goal for businesses every year when they set out to create their goals. I want to have 2022 be my business's best year in terms of revenue and in terms of profit, which hopefully shouldn't be too difficult to do considering this is the first year that I get to spend a full year dedicating all my time and resources into growing the business. But going back to the first goal of the business side of things, I want to be as smart as I can with my advertising revenue to hopefully maximize my profit. And I also need to make sure that as an employee, as a writer, as a creator, I need to be as productive and efficient with my time as I can so I continue to write books and get them out to the readers and continue to grow my revenue stream. And while we're talking about growing the revenue stream, going now into the third goal for the business, I need to also make sure that I am spending an adequate amount of time focusing on growing other platforms for additional revenue. For example, I have my Patreon page, which already has an awesome group of people over there, and I love sharing exclusive behind the scenes content and sneak peeks and giving them early access to my new books. It's an awesome community. I love it. They're the greatest. And I want to continue to grow that so that revenue stream will hopefully go up throughout the year as well. And then I also have things like YouTube. And this is something that I genuinely enjoy doing. And my goal is to continue to hopefully create videos that people want to watch. Hopefully my YouTube subscriber count will go up, and down the road, hopefully this can maybe become another side source of income as well. And then of course I have other things like my merchandise store. People can get t-shirts and coffee mugs and stuff like that. I've got my own audiobook store. I've got other sources that I can also start to work and grow and develop. And this is not even considering things that I have planned that I would like to try down the road. I just haven't taken those first steps yet. Hopefully 22 will be the year that I get to experiment with some of that. And that goal, once again, is a perfect segue into the fourth and final goal for the business side of things. And that is despite knowing that I definitely want to spend some time focusing on growing my other platforms and diversifying my revenue streams, at the end of the day, my biggest priority always needs to be writing. I always need to be publishing new books because that is where my audience has initially come from. That's what they come to me for, is reading stories that I've written. And I need to remember that while YouTube is great and Patreon is great and all these other things that I want to experiment with could be a lot of fun and they're good for me to express my creativity throughout different outlets, the books are the bread and butter of my business. That is what the majority of readers are looking for, and I never need to forget that. I think in this day and age, it can be really easy to get sidetracked with all the different things that you want to build and create. And the technology today makes it so easy to test and experiment and try these different things. And before you know it, just like going back to goal number one of spending less time on social media, you can get sucked down these rabbit holes of other creative endeavors and forget where you started and forget how this whole thing really got built for you in the first place. So that's it, guys. Those are my 4 business goals and my 4 personal goals for 2022. And I know they're pretty plain Jane, vanilla, basic goals that don't have a lot of like KPIs or metrics that can go against them, but I think that they are a really solid roadmap to keep me on track, again, personally and professionally, to make sure that 2022 can be my most productive, happiest, and healthiest year yet. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please hit that like button down below. It really does help me out. Subscribe to the channel if you'd like to see more videos in the future. And here's wishing you and yours a very happy 2022. Bye.